Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining AI Insight and the Financial Performance Reporting Tools featuring our new industry reporting capabilities. I'd like to start by introducing Mike Kell. Mike is Senior Vice President of Program Management and Business Development. Mike?
Hey, Jen. Thank you very much, and I certainly appreciate everyone taking the time out of your day to join us and learn a little bit about some of the more recent things that we've rolled out in our platform. Real quick, though, just before I jump in, you see on the screen right now that ultimately this is a webinar series that we do. We host all kinds of webinars on everything to do with alternative investments and some not to do with alternative investments, different things to make your life a little bit easier. You can see here our next webinar is actually Thursday, May 30th, 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's really focused on AI Insight for the alternative investment managers or sponsors of alternative investments. So hopefully you can join us. You can visit our homepage, aiinsight.com, and find the link to go ahead and register. The other thing that I'll note, if I switch slides here real quick, is the fact that these are 30-minute webinars, very short, really high overview of things, as well as providing value, but we know that your time is valuable and short, so we really try to make these short webinars. So because of that, typically we don't have time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. It's not that that's not important to us, and we certainly want to provide your opportunity to ask all the questions that you have, and we're happy to give you answers to all of your questions. On the screen here you can see our VP of Sales, Michelle Browning, her direct line as well as her email. She'll be the point of contact for anybody on the call today if you want to follow up, get something scheduled to go through some questions that you may have, get pricing information, accessibility information, whatever it is that you need, Michelle can certainly help you. So please jot down her information on the screen. I'm going to take this screen away in just a second and show the actual site to walk through the tour. So hopefully you've had enough time to jot that down. mbrowning@aiinsight.com. She'll be able to take care of for all of your needs on that side of things. So with no further ado, let me share my screen here, and we will get started. Bear with me just a second while I swap screens and go to the home screen. So ultimately, to start, I think a lot of people on the call are subscribers. For those of you who are not, AI Insight, ultimately we're a research, training, and compliance documentation firm focused on everything alternative investment. So from whether it's the illiquid side, true private placements, all the way to alternative mutual funds on the more liquid side of things, and a very large database of information for all of your research needs, training and education aspect of it, continuing education, et cetera, and many other things. The focus today is on one specific feature, or really a couple of features, but really one very specific part of our platform, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Again, I can't stress enough, contact us for any new subscribers that you're not familiar with AI Insight. We'll walk you through everything. There's a lot of information on the platform and the screen. A lot of it I'm going to skip over because we're focusing on one aspect, but we'd be happy to speak with you about that. You can see right now I'm in a test site environment with test site data, but the functionality is the same, which is ultimately what we'll cover today. I'm logged in right now as a broker-dealer. You would have a similar login as a financial advisor, as a sponsor, et cetera. Some of the where you find the actual links are going to differ based on the login access. But really it's the same genuine approach across the board, so it really applies to all users. For the sake of the conversation, everything that I'll talk about today really is around financial performance reporting. From this screen, you would just reports and logs, financial performance reporting. There's really 5 main topics I'll cover today: industry reports, program reports, create charts, create spreadsheets, and create alerts. Really starting with program reports, I'll shoot in here real quick. I'll finish up, I think, with industry reports. I'll spend a little bit of time touching on everything else, simply because it's really important to understand how we do what we do, or what we do, how we do it, in how it functions in the platform, and then that I think will make more sense when I show you the industry reports. Really, so on the program report side of things, what you'll see very quickly is the fact that that we have financial performance reporting access for public non-traded REITs, public non-traded closed-end funds, public non-traded BDCs, and one other part is alternative mutual funds. You don't see it on the screen right now. That's something that's being updated as we speak. And then to go one step further on the industry report side of things, which I think there's a lot of interest and a lot of people on the call really want to focus on, is the fact that we do have industry reports on private placements. We don't have program-specific reports on them, but we do have industry reports. I'll cover more of that in just a second. But to kind of step back a little bit and to think really AI insight in a nutshell in what we do, right? So we ultimately will take these alternative investments. Our analysts will create a program summary, which is about a 12-page PDF document or 12-page document in the platform here. That's really taking the nuts and bolts information from an offering document and put it into a template format so it's easy to compare and contrast using all other features of the platform to really understand what it is that particular program does as disclosed in their offering documents. And then further, we create an education module based on that for compliance and education needs. And why that's important to kind of set the stage is the fact that the program summary is all great information, all of it very relevant, but that is something that's accessible in the platform really once we're engaged by an alternative investment manager until that particular offering closes, whether it's a 6-month raise period, 3 years, 5 years, et cetera. That information is accessible in the system really about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Now, we took that a step further a few years back and rolled out financial performance reporting, which is really focused on the 10Q and 10K data for REITs, BDCs, in semi-annual and annual reports for the closed-end funds or any 40 Act files, so the closed-end funds as well as the alternative mutual funds. And really that's taking that Q and K line item data and putting it into a summary form. And what's different with the program summaries that we create after an offering is effective or once that offering starts until it closes is the fact that financial performance reporting really is initiated upon the first financial filing after escrow broke where applicable, right? So if you think a public non-traded REIT, for example, they become effective, let's say, January 15th of 2019. The first financial filing is the 10Q ultimately, or that would be impacted by that particular REIT would be the first quarter 2019, so we would start coverage then. But where we differ there is the fact that we initiate coverage on that period, but we continue until there's a liquidity event, right? So it's really important to know that even though the offering closes and the prospectus is no more, the training side of it is no more, the financial performance reporting side continues to go until there's a liquidity event, whether that's at 6 months after the program has closed their offering or 15 years later, whatever that might be. So that's really important to note. With no further ado, let me jump in. I want to walk through the reports themselves. You can see here, it's all broken down by sponsor name, program name, status, right? Some of these are liquidated, right? So American Realty Capital, for example, had this PICO 2 REIT that is liquidated. We have that information in there. It's accessible. Maybe you want to use that from a historic comparative purposes. Whatever that is, you still have access to that. Obviously, it's already liquidated, so we don't have the most recent information as far as, year-end 2018, for example. If this thing liquidated in 2017, there's no 10K filed for year-end 2018. However, you will see information for the most recent period prior to the liquidity event, as well as liquidity information. Closed just means that the offering is closed, as well as you'll see that are open, right? So this particular Black Creek Diversified Property Fund is open, currently raising capital today. For the purposes, I'll go through the Blackstone. Obviously, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Blackstone Public Non-Traded REIT. Very successful capital raise. I'll use that for purposes of the discussion. Test site, so it really, lay out all of that is the same as a live site. The data itself is going to change just because of test site data. This is the full financial performance summary that we create, right? So I'm going to cover the snapshot in just a second, but this is the document that our analysts create based on the public filings, 10Qs, 10Ks, et cetera. You'll see I'll scroll through this information fairly quickly, some high-level information, some documents, investment strategy information, what they're actually doing in the portfolio, style drift chart, right? What did they say they were going to do versus what they're actually doing? And that's broken down by actual assets, geographic concentration, and lease terms. But then you ultimately get down here into the actual nuts and bolt line item information. The default is always going to be year ends in any current period. So if we were in, let's say, Q3 right now of 2018, you would actually see Q3, Q2, Q1 2018, and year end 2017. That's the default view if you just want to show annual results. If this was like a CNL Lifestyles that came out in 2004, there would be a significant number of periods, and you can just show annual results. Or you can open up all the quarters even and do that. Some basic disclosure about them reporting FFO and MFFO. But then ultimately some broken down by share class, NAVs, distribution rates, distributions declared per share, property information, capital raise information, assets, liabilities, debt information, cash flows, both on a period-specific and cumulative basis, sources of those distributions, share redemption program to include a ratio of those redeemed versus outstanding to give you a better idea of the redemption. And then litigation and impairments, that's something that we disclose down below. I'll talk about as well. And then some metrics. That's all the quantitative side of the financial performance summary itself. But then you get down here, and really this is the qualitative side. So what we do here at AI Insight, we have a team of analysts that literally go through these Qs and Ks, annual, semi-annual reports from top to bottom, left to right, and pull this information out. And the quantitative side is relatively straightforward when you're talking about line item data. However, the qualitative side, so down here broken into different sections, is really where the analyst is pulling out valuable information from the notes to the statements, which everybody on the call can appreciate the fact of why we do that. And certainly helps the fact that it makes it a little bit more efficient for each of you to review. There's some default charts down here. But, really wanted to highlight the qualitative section down here. And then, by the way, before I jump over to the snapshot really quick, I want to recognize the fact that this type of information, especially the quantitative side, is certainly available from different providers, some very reputable, phenomenal firms that we have a lot of respect for. But something that we pride ourselves on is a couple of things in addition to providing this information, and even more so that qualitative side. But the fact that everything you do in our platform, most of you are familiar with, everything you document on the training, education, and research log, right? So that's your one-stop compliance log. It's automatically done. So if you ever had a FINRA inquiry or audit, SEC, state level, arbitration, whatever that might be, all of this, everything that you do in the platform is documented for the right reasons, and it makes it very easy for you to provide that information based on an inquiry where and if applicable. The other part of what we do is everything is customizable, right? So as far as, obviously, we have well over 100 programs that we're providing this information on. But maybe you only care about 5 or 6 of them. Maybe you care about 40 of them. Maybe you care about all of them. But it's customizable in the way that when we get to charts and spreadsheets, I'll be able to show you how you can run information reports on all of this information you see here, but really just specific to those programs that are important to you. And the other thing is it's really a one-stop shop. It's a platform you're already familiar with. You're using it with your advisors, or the advisors are using it for research, for training, et cetera. And they can also get this information here as well. So anyway, that's the full financial performance summary that I just went over. Now what I want to do is I want to jump over to the snapshot. It's the same information, same program, same period being covered. The difference is that the snapshot is much more higher level. You don't get the fine details of the full summary, that line item information. However, you get very important, comprehensive information, but in a more digestible manner. right? So they're really meant to complement one another rather than replace. So this is the financial performance snapshot. Quick links at the top, some high-level information here from an overview perspective, some nice interactive charts. You can mouse over and get the information. Share redemption, I won't cover all of it because of the time restriction, but ultimately all kinds of great information broken out, share class, as well as information that you can't find in the summary. So this share class in the financial performance summary. So this share class matrix is pretty interesting because it lays out the share class level information for that reporting period, but then also brings in some information from the documents such as the selling commission on the upfront side, the trial commission fees or charges, as well as minimum initial so that you can qualify that information as well, especially if it's a program that you're not familiar with and you want to understand why maybe one share class distribution rate is higher, their performance numbers are different, et cetera. Distribution coverage information and some more interactive charts, as well as that portfolio activity qualitative side of things that our analysts are pulling. So that's the snapshot. Again, going through this stuff fairly quickly. I can't stress enough to set up a separate, very comprehensive full tour. Those are the program reports. I want to save a lot of time here towards the end to cover the industry reports. But before I get there, create charts and create spreadsheets. Create alerts I'll separate out. But these two tabs, they're absolutely identical functionality with the exception of one thing. At the end, you have the option on this functionality to create a chart, right? Visual charts that you look at, you can print out, et cetera. But on create spreadsheets is exactly that. At the end, after you follow all the information, you generate a spreadsheet, right? So that's really important for those of you who create pretty elaborate or maybe not elaborate, right? Maybe streamlined matrix that you want to keep up to date. This is a way for you to do it on an automated basis. You can save these reports and regenerate them. So you spend the time selecting your criteria and all on the front end. You can save the report. So every time you come in, you select your quick report. I don't have any saved in my test account here. But you could click that in a matter of seconds. It spits out what you need in a very quick and efficient manner. So I won't cover both of them, but know that it's identical functionality. Spreadsheets is great for the matrix that I said, or to cut the data in a way that's important to you. And charts is great for those more visual individuals. So what you can see here, it's separated by structure. If you wanted to compare a REIT to a BDC, to a closed-end fund, and even an alternative mutual fund that doesn't show here, but it's there for those of you that have access to the platform today, you can do that. I don't think it makes a lot of sense in a lot of regards, but if that's what you want to do, then we give you the ability to do that. I selected the non-traded REITs. You can filter these programs based on escrow break. So if you want to know, only those that have already been open for at least a month or broke escrow for at least, a year, you can select 12 months. For a minimum, you can select a range, maybe up to 2 years, for example. And all it's going to do is filter these programs. You can see we have them in 3 separate columns: open, closed, and liquidated. I cover that a little bit on the front end. We think it's very important to separate them out. That's why you see that. You select as many as you would like. I'll just select a couple here real quick, maybe Blackstone and CNL Lifestyle, just because I mentioned it earlier. Default charts, you can create custom charts. We'll do the custom charts. And then here's all those metrics. All that line item information spits out here, right? So you can select as many of them as you would like. You could select as few of them as you would like. And then you come down here and ultimately you select the time periods that you want to compare and generate charts, and it's going to spit out a nice chart for you to interact with. And then something else, though, before I do that, I want to show lifecycle analysis. So this is very important, right? So it's very difficult as an analyst to compare a new offering to an old offering. And by old, I mean came out 10-plus years ago. But, yeah, I mean, you could use this for 2 offerings, in the current year if you want. But really it's made to compare, well, how did this older program that came out 15 years ago compare to one that came out this year? But it's hard because typically all you have is, well, I have 9 months ended 9/30/2018 for both of them, but this thing's been in operation for 15 years. Well, that's what this life cycle analysis does. It gives you the ability to stack these things based on a set number of quarters since escrow broke, right? So if let's say we select 2 quarters since escrow broke, We're going to generate the chart. I just picked total assets. You can do it on anything. But this is going to tell you, well, Blackstone, and compared to CNL Lifestyle, which came out, I think, in 2004, but 1 quarter since escrow broke, this is where CNL Lifestyle was, but this is where Blackstone is. And then 2 quarters since escrow broke, et cetera. So it gives you a much more efficient way to compare an older program to a newer program in a more efficient manner. From this screen, you can save the programs, but you can select change line items or metrics. Maybe you don't want to do that life cycle analysis. You just want to see that chart for that particular year-end 2019, year-end 2018. CNL Lifesight, it's a liquidated program, so horrible example I just gave you. But you'll see it's NA, right, because it's a liquidated program. Mouse over is going to tell you how many months since escrow broke as well. So that's create charts, create spreadsheets is identical. Jump over to create alerts real quick. It's exactly what it says, right? This is a way for whether you're an advisor, whether you're an analyst, whether you're a service provider, whatever it is that you do at your firm, this is a way for you to come in and set an alert. So, maybe you're tracking 100 different programs and you have one analyst at one broker-dealer and you have a million other things to do. But you having to review those or ongoing monitoring of these, you have a compliance obligation to do so, right? So, yeah, you know what? You're going to get there. You just have to take a prioritized approach to it, an efficient approach. So what this allows you to do is set alerts that are important to you to be alerted anytime something that maybe is of significance to you. A perfect example would be, and you could select all of these to apply it to, one, et cetera. You can select all of the programs or only those that are important to you, right? And then you come down here, pick a name, whatever you want to pick, whatever you want, and then select a line item. In this example, you could do impairments and litigation is the easiest one, but you could even do something like a distribution coverage ratio. You want to be alerted anytime a particular program's financial filings reflect that they have a distribution coverage ratio over 110%, or that they have impairments disclosed. Yes, that impairments are disclosed. That's going to send you a real-time alert. When we update this in the platform, it's going to send you an alert and let you know that this program exceeded that parameter. You might want to now make it a priority to get in there and take a look at that full Q or that K. Come into AI Insight, do it in AI Insight, so therefore, oh, by the way, everything gets documented for you from compliance purposes on the training, education, research log. So that's the alerts. Pretty self-explanatory, but I think giving it an example like that gives you maybe a little bit better of an idea of more realistic applicability. Now I'm going to shift gears in a very quick manner here, and cover industry reports. Not because it's the least important. It's probably the most important why most people join the call today. But I think it was important for you to see everything that we do outside of industry reports to understand how we create industry reports. A couple of points before I actually show you the information. One is the fact that we have it available for REITs quarterly, BDCs quarterly, closed-end funds and alternative mutual funds semi-annual, and private placements monthly. Obviously, as you could imagine, we literally, our analysts go through, we have to update every single program in the platform before or within that structure anyways, before we can create the industry report, because the industry report is aggregating all of the individual program level information and putting it into graphical form to get an idea of the industry as a whole, right? And you can't do that until all of the other ones are entered, QA'd, et cetera. So there's certainly, all of you are aware, all the other service providers, there's always a lag between the filing, where you have the end of the period, then you have the filing deadline, and then you have the period of time that it takes you to get everything updated, quality assured, and submitted, and then create the industry report, write the narratives, QA that, and generate it. So there's certainly a time lag. Private placements is easier for us. That's something that we do every month, and we really have that. We really hope to have the prior month done within the first week of the following month. So March, for example, is done the first week in April. April, for example, done the first week in May. And we'll get more efficient with it as we go through. REITs, for example, a little bit different of a story, right? There's a lot of REITs. You have open REITs, closed REITs, so something like that. So you have the filing deadline on the 10Ks at the end of March, right, which just came. We get all of the individual reports, so you currently have access to the financial performance summaries as well as the snapshots for each individual fund. So right now, and that's all been QA'd, but right now we're in the process of creating the industry report itself, doing our own level of analysis, and writing those insights that I'll show you in just a second. We'll make that available. I'm hoping next week, as early as possible next week, that it will be available. BDCs right after that, probably the following week. And then closed-end funds and AMFs shortly thereafter. But that's how that goes. Another key point to make just before I open the reports themselves and scroll through and show you is the fact that it's really important to understand that the industry report, the programs, the issuers that we cover are those that subscribe to the platform. And I don't want to say that in a negative way. We think that's a great thing because we have coverage on those programs for a reason, and it's the fact that our 125 plus financial firm subscribers, whether it's a family office, REA, independent broker-dealer, plus all the individual financial advisor registered representatives that subscribe to our platform, those are the programs that the users are selling. We have over 50,000 active users of the platform, and these are the programs that are selling. So the majority, although trillions of dollars go into private placements a year, those programs that are actively being sold in our direct investment space, we have the majority of them. So we do think that it absolutely is a representative sample that you can rely on that information for purposes of understanding industry trends, et cetera. So with no further ado, let me spend a little time showing that as soon as I move my screen here in a way that I can show. Private placements will start on March 2019. It gives you an idea. We break them out into categories. Again, set up a separate tour to take time, ask questions, et cetera. It's going to tell you the separate categories, how many activated month to date. So in the month of March, activations year to date, change year over year, offering amount month to date, year to date, and why. And just really quickly on the offering amount, why we have that information shown is the fact that should, if these alternative investment managers are doing what they're supposed to do, then what they're doing is they're bringing to market an offering that they feel represents where the opportunity exists in the market, right? So if a manager is bringing out $1 billion retail deal, they see $1 billion of opportunity based on the amount of time they believe they're going to raise capital, and that is a part of a trend, right? There's some managers that are great at capitalizing on that and managing a pipeline in a way that makes sense and aligns with that, and some others not so much. But it is important to understand that information. That's why we list it there, and then year-over-year change. 1031 breakdown as far as the sector. The details as far as year one, cash on cash, average and range, loan to value. And then we break out charts, right? How many programs activated, and then what's the offering amount year to date, and then prior years, right? So very interactive information in the platform. And then we write insights, right? So we put some narrative information to the information that you see in the numerical. Plus we're showing you the actual programs. These are the actual ones that activated, when they activated on the platform, and what the offering amount was. And that gives you some basic information here. Same gist for all the different structures or sectors, et cetera. Something that I do want to point out really quick before I jump to the other ones is the data excludes the programs that are restricted to specific financial firms. As you could imagine, with the number of subscribers that we have, there's certain programs that are in the platform that are restricted to certain financial firms, and therefore we have to exclude them for purposes of this. But certainly that's not the majority. I'm going to bring over this other screen. I just already have them open. So non-traded REIT example here. This gives you an idea of the industry report on a non-traded REIT. Capital raise information, top 10s, year-to-date. This is inside, again, test site information. This is where you'll see the narrative for that. New sponsors, property transactions, liquidity events, total capital raise by open and closed programs, broken out by sponsor as a percent, open programs including DRIP year-to-date, capital raise since inception, capital raised by the closed programs, financing insight. So everywhere you see insights is where our analysts are putting in their narrative information to accompany the numeric information you see in the charts, et cetera. Debt information, again, broken out between open and closed, weighted average interest rates, and then we have this cute little distribution chart broken out by perpetual or in life cycle non-traded REITs, right, and as well as open and closed, average and range, annualized distribution rates, distribution coverage charts, both open and closed programs, total AUM, and then you have a structure, strategy, and sector pie chart as well. So all of that on the REITs. Jumping to BDCs, again, test site, can't stress enough, test site data, but you still get the hang of what it looks like. Live data will be out soon, and you'll be able to see all of that. Same general information just on the BDCs, obviously some difference as far as what capital raise, same type of information. But you get down to like capital stack information, right? So what percent is senior secured, et cetera, floating rate versus fixed rate debt. Total return information, total return chart, both broken out open and closed BDCs, portfolio turnover, and then expense averages as well. Closed-end funds, a little bit different. Breaks it out, top 10 by net assets, reporting period because they're not fiscal year filers typically, portfolio holdings, investment strategy information, total return information, as well as derivative exposure, which is certainly important in those as well. So hopefully, I went a couple minutes over time. I knew that was going to happen. Hopefully everybody's been able to stay on. Great feature, very high-level overview. I can't stress enough, please contact Michelle Browning, mbrowning@aiinsight.com. Direct number is 415-636-0287. She's happy to set up a more formal tour to take our time, answer your questions. I greatly appreciate your time today. Please tune in for our future webinars. We look forward, as always, to hearing positive, negative, neutral feedback going forward based on what you heard today and what maybe you take the time to look at in the future. For those that are just individual financial advisors, registered representatives, you can go to aiinsight.com, subscribe to this immediately in the platform. Those group subscribers certainly call in, whether it's to Michelle or your relationship manager here. Thank you again very much. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to having you on the next webinar. Take care.